I just wanted to enjoy my Saturday, have a barbecue in the backyard, and relax. But my neighbor decided that this was a crime against humanity. As soon as she smelled the meat roasting, she appeared at the fence looking disgusted, saying that the smoke was poisoning the air and that I was killing innocent animals. I thought it was just another one of her rants, until she called 911. Yes, she called the police because I was having a barbecue in my own house. Stay until the end because you won't believe what happened next. What could be better than a good barbecue on a sunny Saturday? There's only one right answer to that question. No. I woke up excited, already imagining that juicy meat on the grill, a cold beer on the side, the smell of the coals spreading through the yard. Perfect. But there's one detail I haven't told you. I have a completely unbearable neighbor. That person who seems to have made a contract with the universe to make other people's lives a living hell. She thinks she's the sheriff of the neighborhood, watches everything, picks on everything, and, to make matters worse, she's extremely vegan. I say extremely because she's not someone who just follows her own diet and lives in peace. This woman wanted to turn the whole street into a temple of lettuce worship. So there I was, happily seasoning my meat, when I felt a shiver run down my spine. You know when you feel like you're being watched? I looked over, and there she was, standing on the other side of the fence with her arms crossed and a look of disgust on her face, as if I was about to commit a crime. The smoke from the barbecue had barely begun to rise, and she was already there, ready to pour out all the poison she had in her heart. "This is disgusting," she snapped, frowning as if she smelled the worst smell in the world. I ignored it, because, honestly, I just wanted peace. But peace was something this woman didn't know the meaning of. A couple of minutes passed, and the next thing I knew, she was holding a portable fan, trying to blow the smoke back into my yard. A fan, people! The scene was so ridiculous that I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But, like any inspector of other people's lives, she wasn't going to stop there. Suddenly, she took out her cell phone and dialed 911. Yes, she called the police because I was having a barbecue. The day was just beginning. If there was an award for the most obnoxious person in the neighborhood trophy, this woman would take it every year in a row, with no competition. Not only did she call 911, but she did so with a desperation worthy of a national tragedy. You could hear her indignation as she spoke to the operator. She gesticulated, paced back and forth, pointed at my grill as if it were a weapon of mass destruction. What was she saying? Hello? Police? Come quickly. There's a man burning corpses in the yard. The truth is that nothing could have prepared me for the look of sheer desperation on her face as she explained her emergency. She was clutching her chest, as if she was having a heart attack caused by the holy smoke of the barbecue. The drama was Oscar-worthy. And the funniest thing? I carried on barbecuing. What was I going to do? Apologize? Put out the fire? Never. I turned my meat, with all the calm in the world, and even threw more wood on the fire, because if I was going to be a nuisance, I'd better be. But then it happened. The car arrived, 2 sirens flashing, stopping right in front of my house. I wanted to feel angry, but the scene was too good not to find it funny. What did they think was happening? A fire? A kidnapping? A satanic ritual with hamburgers? The woman practically ran to the car before the officers had even left. She was pointing at the grill as if it were the scene of a heinous crime. She was so out of control that even the officers seemed confused. That's when I realized I was about to witness one of the most shameful moments of her life. One of the policemen, visibly bored, got out of the car and looked around. Nothing unusual. A normal house, a normal yard, a normal barbecue. He looked at me, then at her, then at the barbecue. I didn't know what he was thinking, but deep down, I hoped he was questioning the decisions that had led him to be called to such an event. The woman took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and let out the sentence she had probably planned with all the seriousness in the world. "This smoke is poisoning the neighborhood." It should be an environmental crime. The policeman was silent for about 3 seconds. 3 long seconds. You could hear the wind passing by. And that's when I realized that, for the first time, it wasn't just me who thought this woman was completely out of touch with reality, but it was only just beginning. If there were a neighborhood court to judge crimes against the common sense of others, this woman would surely consider herself the supreme judge. But at that moment, it was she who was about to be judged by the patience of the police officers. The scene was wonderful. Me on one side, calmly turning my meat on the grill. On the other, my neighbor squawking as if she had just caught a crime against humanity. And in the middle, 2 policemen who clearly weren't being paid enough to deal with it. The most beautiful thing? The smoke from the grilling meat was slowly rising, framing her face of pure hatred. I could have sworn I saw a tear trickle from her eye, or maybe it was just the effect of the smoke on her face. The poor policeman sighed deeply before beginning the investigative process. He walked around the yard, examined the barbecue, looked up at the sky, probably trying to find the strength not to resign right there, and, finally, wiped his hand across his forehead as if realizing that he had wasted his time going there. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. The policeman looked directly at me, the suspect, and asked in the most tired voice in the world, "Sir, are you just having a barbecue?" I held back the urge to laugh. I took a deep breath, tried to look as serious as possible, and answered, "Yes, sir, just having a barbecue." That was it. That was enough to seal this woman's fate. Her reaction was worthy of a Mexican soap opera. She threw herself backwards, put her hands to her face as if she had just witnessed a carnivorous apocalypse happening in real time. And then, the final coup attempt. She pointed her finger at me, shaking with indignation, and started spitting out a bunch of words about human rights, toxins in the atmosphere, and something about the silent screams of the animals on the grill. That was my favorite, without a doubt. Meanwhile, one of the policemen pulled a little notebook out of his pocket. For a second, I thought he was going to fine me, but he didn't. He wrote something down, signaled to his partner, and handed her a piece of paper. You could see on her face that it wasn't an award for being the best defender of broccoli. It was then that I realized the woman had just received an official warning for calling the police for a ridiculous reason. I almost dropped the meat tongs to applaud, but calmed down. She wasn't going to accept defeat that easily. If there's one thing this woman doesn't know how to do, it's lose with dignity. After receiving the warning from the police, any normal person would have lowered their head and accepted defeat. But no, she held that piece of paper as if it were a death sentence and trembled with indignation. It felt like it was going to explode at any moment, like a boiling kettle, only without tea, without calm, and without any remnants of common sense. And then, the big turning point in the script. She didn't leave. On the contrary, she marched back to the fence, crossed her arms, and stared at me as if she were trying to exorcise me with the power of her gaze. Perhaps she thought that if she stared at me long enough, I would give up the barbecue out of sheer psychological pressure. Spoiler, it didn't work. I carried on as if nothing had happened. I took another piece of meat, turned it on the grill, added a little extra seasoning just to make it smell even more irresistible. And that's when she lost the rest of her sanity. She took out her cell phone again and started recording a video. Yes, because if the police weren't going to arrest me for crimes against nature, the internet certainly would. She spoke loudly, dramatizing everything as if she were in the middle of an environmental documentary. Here's a murderer, people, killing innocent animals, polluting the air in our community. The icing on the cake? She pointed her cell phone at me, and then at the police officers, as if she was expecting them to suddenly change their minds and handcuff me right there in the middle of the yard, with a piece of meat still in my hand. But unfortunately for her, the policemen were already at the limit of their patience. One of them crossed his arms, looked at the car, and then at the woman, as if thinking, Is there time to ask for a transfer to another neighborhood? And it was at that moment that her great idea came to her. If she couldn't stop me from barbecuing in a civilized manner, then she was going to resort to vegan terrorism. She ran into the house, and in less than a minute came back with a bucket full of water. Before I could react, she threw the contents over the fence, straight onto my barbecue. And that, my friends, was how the juiciest meat of the day turned into a cold shower. Literally. But if she thought that was the end of it, she was sorely mistaken. I needed a moment to process what had just happened. This woman really had the nerve to throw a bucket of water on my barbecue. There I was, holding the barbecue tongs, staring at my soggy, steaming grill as if I had just witnessed a brutal crime. The delicious aroma of roasting meat was now mixed with the smell of wet charcoal and frustration. A real attack on the Saturday barbecue. The neighbor, on the other hand, was beaming with a victorious smile, as if she had just saved the world from a catastrophe. She probably already imagined herself being honored by some secret vegan organization, receiving an award for best service to the cause of lettuce. But reality hit back faster than she expected. The policemen, who until that moment had been trying to keep their composure, finally lost their patience. I saw one of them close her eyes and take a deep breath, thinking, I didn't study at the police academy to deal with this kind of thing. Then, without much ceremony, she was escorted to the car. Yes, she threw a bucket of water on the other's barbecue and managed to turn it into a real problem. I don't know exactly what the officers said to her, but from the way they gestured and pointed at the fence, it looked like they were explaining a very complex concept to her. Like, there is such a thing as private property. The best thing. Her face changed completely. The woman, who 5 minutes ago was acting like she was the heroine of the vegan revolution, now looked like she had been betrayed by fate. She even tried to argue something, pointing to the barbecue as if it were proof that I was the real criminal, but the cops wouldn't hear of it. Warning number 2 for her. Meanwhile, I stood there, watching the scene with a mixture of indignation and satisfaction. Yes, my barbecue was ruined, but at least I had the pleasure of seeing justice done in the most comical way possible. And to make it clear that nothing was going to shake me, I did the only thing a man of honor and dignity could do. I lit the grill again. If she thought that a bucket of water would put an end to my barbecue, she was sorely mistaken. And to make it even better, I took the biggest piece of meat I had, threw it on the grill, and let the smell rise even stronger than before. At that moment, the neighbor looked at me, eyes wide, as if she had just lost a war of epic proportions. And that's when I knew this story wasn't over yet. She wasn't going to give up, but neither was I. Have you ever had a neighbor like this in your life? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Want to see more videos like this? Click on card and find out how crazy these neighbors can get. See you in the next video.